what's up, guys? This is Adasi,
This is Matt Bedart
and you're watching Backstage Pass.
on Fuel Music TV. Let's rock!
Can roll?
Yeah. What we got on today, dude?
Okay, today we have a very special guest, our good friend and a great producer, Steve B. And we're gonna talk. Well, there's questions here in Matt's wrote here, like, really?
I'm already getting thrown under the bus. We haven't even started this interview. What's going on here?
No, of course I was checking the questions here.
This is starting off
like,
well.
oh, come on, man.
We had to supply him with a beer just to start this interview off. So.
Okay, right, we're gonna do it.
Right.
We're gonna start again, but well, you want me to hear those questions?
Yeah.
How was your New Year's?
It's a lot like this. I sat around with a couple friends at the house, drank a beer. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And yeah, you know, it was. I think that holidays like New Year's are kind of like amateur nights out. Mm-hmm. So I kind of stay away from doing anything.
Operating heavy machinery?
I hunker down at the house. Hope that no drunk driver drives through the middle of my house, and that's about all I do.
Well, successful. He made it here. Success.
Totally. Okay, well, but let's go back to business now. We're gonna talk about like music productions. Like Steve's a Grammy winner as well too, and he worked with so many big names in the music industry today. Like, talk about a little bit about like with the people you've been work with.
Well, I started off my career as a classical musician, then moved on into the recording side of it later on. And but then I ended up in a studio called Larrabee Studios, where it had everybody coming through. You know, from hard rock, someone like Machine Head or something like that would come through. I worked on a Machine Head album way back when, and then all the way to someone like Dr. Dre. So I got the pleasure of working with Dr. Dre for nearly almost 2 decades, a little less than 2 decades. You know.
Oh, this is pretty cool. Like,
So you're in classical music? Like you're a violinist, or what do you play?
I was a trumpet player, actually. Yeah. So yeah.
Nice.
So I started off performing. Realized I didn't want to perform for a living. So I kind of pivoted to find something else in music that I could do that would keep me in music, but not be the main performer.
Were you in a high school, the high school band, or?
Yeah, I did all that. The high school bands and stuff like that. Played in college, and then even in high school, I started playing professionally. Okay. And so I started playing in pit orchestras for musicals, and played in orchestras up in Sacramento and San Francisco.
Oh, sweet!
Oh, this is pretty cool. And you work with Michael Jackson, yeah? Like, which album was it?
Michael Jackson. I think I first met him on what was it? The History album. Which was kind of like a compilation album, but he was coming back into Larrabee to kind of redo some and look at some of the mixes and things like that. And then after that, we worked on another album, Blood on the Dance Floor. And then there was, I can't remember, it was a third album that I started with Rodney Jerkins and Michael. I just can't remember the name of which album that one was, to be honest with you.
Oh, this is cool.
But
yeah. And this was all in LA when?
Yeah, this is all in LA, and this was all mainly at Larrabee Studios. So I worked couple studios outside of Larrabee with Michael, but mainly all of it was at Larrabee Studios, at Larrabee Studios West for the most part.
Nice. Yeah. And today, like, well, you are more into like the hip hop world today, or you what like?
Well, for a long time I was in, like I say, what is in the hip hop world, but I kind of dabble in some of my favorite records I did this last year was I did a big band record for a good friend of mine. Jeremy Levy, who he redid Haus Planets and reimagined it. It was literally called Planets Reimagined for a big band. So I mixed that album, and then we just recently released the surround sound mix. I just went back in and did a Atmos mix of it.
The Atmos, yeah.
So I get a lot of hip hop stuff because I had a long career of working with Dr. Dre. Before that was Death Row, and then through Dr. Dre, I worked on Eminem, and I did like the Eminem show, which got a Grammy for Best Rap Album. I mixed on that album. Then I did a lot of 50 Cent records, all like games records, all of like I just did a lot of hip hop. You know?
You just talk about like the Atmos. Like what do you think about the Atmos? Like how it's gonna affect the market for the music today? Like you think this will be something that you must have?
Is it a standard
Is
now?
standard like, or is just going?
You know what I think? What happens is I think if car manufacturers kind of implement it and they think that it's something that they want to permanently keep in their cars, or to a certain extent, you know, at least that being kind of even in the base models, it comes out, you have Atmos in your car, it might, you know, turn out to be something that stays around for a while. Outside of that, you know, it's really hard because, you know, most people don't have, you know, 9.14 speakers in their house, you know. And, you know, you can listen to these Atmos mixes in binaural mode, and they do sound a little bit different, but they tend to not sound quite as good as the stereo mixes, to be honest with you, you know, and when they're summed down to 2. So I don't have high hopes, to be honest with you, for Atmos. Okay. And if you look in history, we've had, you know, there was quad music back in the, you know, the late 70s. Was it
ADAT? When was ADAT? It was like
ADAT?
90s?
Well, ADAT's different, but yeah, ADAT was one of the late 90s. That was a multi-track machine.
Okay.
But then we did have 5.1 music for a little while, and people were mixing in 5.1 music, and that didn't really last. So Atmos could have, you know, it's having definitely through Apple and a couple other, you know, Tidal and a couple of those other streaming services. They do have a big push for all the artists to release everything in Atmos. Nice. The problem is that the record companies aren't seeing what the benefit is yet, and so they're investing very little money, and so it's kind of been a race to the bottom. Where like in the very beginning, you know, mixers, people like myself who mix records, we're getting decent money to mixing Atmos records. Now, you know, they're paying some kid at the record company, you know, $150 to go do it, you know, and it's become a race to the bottom and so the art in the whole thing is getting a little lost, I think.
Okay, well.
Well, backing up a little bit to, you know, you mentioned, you know, you were into classical music and playing trombone and everything, and how did
trumpet?
Trumpet.
Yeah, trombone people are way different than me.
So, going from the trumpet into, you know, music production, was there an initial, I don't know, the official entrance when you got into it? Was it a friend's band that you got into, or maybe, you know?
What I did was I was looking for a program that, because I was in my college years when I made this decision. So I was at California State University at Sacramento at first, and I was just doing like a business sort of degree or whatever. It was a kind of a generic degree, and I was hating it, didn't like it. I was like, well, I gotta get back into music, and I was like, how am I gonna get back into music and what it is? And I found a recording arts program up in Chico. So California State University at Chico had this recording arts program. They had a full studio with a 2-inch tape. Like, so you had everything you needed to do to learn how to be a recording artist, recording artist, and so I went up there, and that's where I kind of really dived into being an engineer, or, you know.
Sweet.
Yeah, like, but for example, back in the days, how do you see today? Like back in the days, how was the difference than today? Because it's looked like everybody with like a laptop today, they record and mix, and you know, this is what people.
Well, I kind of explain this a lot to people, where I feel like today there's been a big democratization of music and of recording, because now people have access to like, you know, anybody, literally $1 million studios that, you know, were really kept for just the elites of business are now compacted into your laptop, you know, and you can really kind of like, you know, because before you needed a SSL board or a, you know, 2-inch tape machine and all these things that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then, you know, to get into those rooms, it cost thousands of dollars, you know, a day or whatever it was. And so, you know, there wasn't access, but now people have access via computers. And so there's been this kind of democratization. Now, The opposite end of that, though, is that at one point, for people like me who are we're young and getting into the industry, I got a job at a big studio, and people that would come through the studio who are producers and engineers and are more seasoned than I got to watch them firsthand and learn from them as like an apprentice, right? And so I was there every day learning how to actually make a record.
Yeah.
Kids these days are kind of in the wild, wild west. Some of them are looking on YouTube, some of them going to school, some of them are not, some of them, so there's not a real pipeline like there was before. And so, some of these kids are getting good advice. Some of them are getting very, very, very bad advice on the internet. And so it's been a rough time for people coming up through this industry, which is why I tend to try to put myself out there as a professional and has been in the business for a long time. I go to a lot of schools. I do a lot. Right now I'm teaching a course at a school called Point Blank.
Okay.
And it's called The Art of Mixing. And it's a 10-week course, and I have, I go there once a week and I talk to these kids about what it means to be a mixer and what it means to get into this business and how to create a quality mix. Yes. So, and I think it's important for people who have been doing it for a long time to share that knowledge and pass it down and keep it going, because, in the end, everybody's like, oh, you're telling everybody your secrets. No, there's no secrets. There is no secrets in this, and then the big thing is like your ears and your knowledge and the connection between the two is what helps you become a great, producer, engineer, recording artist, writer, or whatever you're doing.
And you find that you just learning alongside somebody, was it, I know it's a different kind of education than in the classroom, but in your own experience, did you feel that you got a lot more direction that way, just, getting your hands dirty and getting in there? Or?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think what happened was, I think what education does, it gives you a solid foundation. It gives you a set of vocabulary, and it gives you an idea of what is going on, right? And that's what education is there for. And then real world application, going into the studio, and as you said, me watching people like Dr. Dre mix a hip hop record. I had, before I watched someone like Dr. Dre mix a hip hop record, I'd never mixed a hip hop record. Yeah. And so watching him do that over and over again, and understanding the things that he does and how he does it and why he does it, and I think, for me, Dr. Dre's number one talent is a mixer. I'm not trying to say that he's not an amazing producer, because he is, but one of the things that he just does so well is he mixes albums. I think he's great at that.
Well, I'm still waiting around for the next Chronic album, so.
Yeah, so is everybody else.
So, as far as, I know I was talking to you off camera about this too, but when you're doing mixes, I'm not anywhere near, as any bedroom guitarist most of the times is when you're writing a song, I can get levels kind of where they're at, but even the little that I do know, it can drive me crazy. I'm wondering about when you're mixing, do you ever go through the same trials too, where you're like, man, you have to walk away from it for a little bit and then come back and you're like, okay, this is what I need to do. I needed to come back with fresh ears or
Oh yeah, all the time. I think getting fresh perspective on a mix is crucial. A lot of times what I'll do too is just have it very low in the background and just be reading, or death scrolling on Instagram, whatever, and then all of a sudden something will pop out at you. Like, oh, what was that? What was that sound? And then all of a sudden you have to go back and fix that. But yeah, I think that, a great way to mix is definitely you take a lot of ear breaks. You listen, sometimes I'll have it playing and I'll literally go to another room and listen to it in there, or, so, it's not always just sitting between, because it's easy as a mixer. We're supposed to be looking at the minutia of the mix and focusing in on the micro parts of it, but it's sometimes when doing that you lose the macro and the essence and what the feel of the song should be. So, I think it's always good to step back and make sure it's just in general, is this enjoyable to listen to?
That's cool. And then, when you're mixing, how often you take breaks? How important is to take a breaks? when you know.
Yeah, I think sometimes you get into it and you just kind of forget you're getting a role and you forget to take breaks. But I do think that ear fatigue is a real thing, and you really should give your ears some breaks at some point. And I think your body will tell you. But at the same time, it's nice to. You could always set your watch if you wanted to, and just say, "Hey,
it's time.
It's time." Set your alarm.
Well, speaking of breaks, as far as getting a break in music, when obviously you've been working with a lot of pretty renowned artists and such, but was there like the first big artist that came in that kind of spearheaded like this arena of getting into work with these bigger artists? Was there one specifically that like it started off and that you kind of get more renowned with, if that makes sense?
I mean, as I said, working at a studio like Larrabee was really kind of my jumping point. So from there, I met people like Dr. Dre because he was already coming to the studio. Okay. And so what happened was, for me, was at that point, in the late 90s, Death Row was booking out our studio, was booking out Larrabee a lot. And every once in a while, they wouldn't have an engineer. So whoever was at the studio, I would step in and I would be the engineer. Next thing you know, like I could be, they started asking for me, and then, when Dre broke off and created Aftermath, he asked me to come over to Aftermath.
Awesome.
Or at least, I'm not sure if Dre asked me, but somebody in Aftermath asked if I could come over. Uh-huh. So so definitely, in that, if you look at kind of the heyday of my career, I would say. I would say the late 90s, early 2000s, where I was really just, entrenched in, big names. That was because of Larrabee and because of Dr. Dre and Aftermath. Since then, though, the nice thing is that because of those things, I've been able to break off and do things that I really like as passion projects, and I get to do things that I enjoy. But it's nice to have that cachet of clout behind you at some point. In any industry, it's always, what have you done for me lately? And so, so I have to always rattle off the new things that I'm doing, and which, sometimes I'm like more proud of them, like, something like the Brent Fires record that, I've mastered every Brent Fires record, who's a very popular R&B artist right now. I really am proud of that stuff. And then there's some of the stuff that I try to like roll off my shoulder, not really like, I did the Blueface stuff, but and I'm less excited to tell people about that. So
like for example, for the new artists today, like social media, how important it is. Like, okay, you have a great album, everything good, production, everything. So what's the next step? Like, because sometimes you don't know what to do with that kind of product, and this is what makes the musician frustrated, because the musician don't understand. Oh fuck! I spend a lot of money, recording, produce, spend time, hire musicians and all that kind of stuff for make a great album. But what's next? Like what they should come on, what's next step? What social media,
right.
Instagram?
Well, first of all, it shouldn't have been. If you're saying what's next, you already screwed up.
Okay.
Because you should have went into it with a business plan, because it's the music business. So if you don't go into the music business with a business plan
from the beginning, like
from the very beginning, you're putting the cart before the horse.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So my thing is, everybody, and there's no real. If there was a magic way to do things, and this is how you do it, and I could lay it out, everybody would do it, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is there is no real one way. But some of the things I can say that I've seen people have in common is, they knew that they needed an infrastructure around them that can do the things that they can't, from publicity to actual bookings, to blah blah blah, all these things that they have a real infrastructure around them. In the early days, 50 Cent's people, when he created G Unit, he created an infrastructure around him that would not let him fail, and then he made sure, he was for sure in charge of it. Yeah. Okay. But he was surrounded by a good team of people who knew how to get, the A&R part of it, the publicity part of it, all the difference. And if you don't have that already all set up going into it, then you're already losing. Okay. If you have a great album and you're trying to think, all right, how do I get this out into the world? You've already lost that opportunity.
Yeah.
So I would highly suggest thinking about, before you get into the music business and before you get into recording your stuff, is like, all right, what do I need to make this a business? How do I make me a business? Because that's what you need to do. Because you're now, music is your promotional material, but your brand is you, and you're selling yourself to people, and so they want to, Taylor Swift is brilliant at it. She's created a multi-billion-dollar business around, and she's had great help doing it. You look at her father helped her out, and with a good investment, and they got great people around her. And this is not to say that Taylor didn't write amazing songs. She didn't. She did all, and she had the foresight to know that I need these people to boost me up. So I think you got to look at how do these people who are super successful do it. And it wasn't by making music in their bedroom and then hoping that someone will discover
uploading
it on Spotify somehow. And that was your extent of your plan.
Basically, it's the plan everything like for the beginning. Yeah, this is pretty cool. Like, this is a real good information. Okay, so what's Jorge? Jorge have a question for you, Steve.
What do you think about trap music?
Trap music. Trap music. I think it had its time, and it might stay around for a little bit longer. And I think there'll be elements of trap music that always kind of goes forward. And I think the hi-hats, kind of like little, I call them, my producer friend and I, Alex, call them crickets. Some of that will kind of stay forward in music, and those elements will be there. But I think trap itself, I kind of like, for us older metal and rocker guys, I kind of explain it like I explain how punk music came about. So if you go and you look at who the trap audience is, it's very much kind of the same people who were in the early 80s punk fans or in the punk bands. So the punk bands were kind of the FU to the establishment rock, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden punk bands came out and they were playing, maybe 2 chords, sometimes 3 if they were getting wild with it. And so Adas, you got an egg.
I know, everybody.
A money shot.
You guys on eggs? No, we're good. Somebody on eggs here? Yeah. No? Okay.
So I think knowing that, so that punk music was this FU to the establishment rock music, and it was simple, it was loud, and kids were skateboarders, they were wearing tight jeans, they were coloring their hair. And when the music hit, they were in the middle moshing. That was what punk brought, right? This energy, it was this FU to, and this is exactly what happened with trap. Trap was the same thing when
to hip hop.
So the establishment hip hop was there. These kids came around and they're like, no, we're gonna make our own music. It's gonna be this trap music. And if you look at it, what does trap music bring? It brought skateboarder kids wearing skinny jeans, coloring their hair, and when the sub hit at concert, there was a huge mosh pit.
Yeah.
And so you could see these great parallels between trap music and punk music. And so and I think there, if you look at the punk scene lasted for a short amount of time relatively in music history, but there's elements of punk that has always continued on. Now I feel like the same thing is going to happen with trap. I think trap music had its time, and we might be passing its time right now. But I think elements from trap, it's going to have its own legacy, and people will always kind of refer to it in some sort of fondness and some sort of I'll be paying tribute to it, in whether it's I'm using the hi-hats in that sort of way, or I'm using the 808 in that sort of matter. And that's my spiel on trap. Thank you for going to Trap 101 with Steve B.
So, by the way, for like just a 3,000 foot view of hip hop versus like saying mixing a Machine Head album. Are there very stark contrasts, like as far as, you know?
Stylistically and mixing, there's definitely, yeah. I mean, there's approach differences, you know, because there's, you know, in different styles of different music, you know, there's different things that need to be emphasized. With hip hop, it's all very drum based and low end based, with the vocals being very upfront. Rock music, you know, it's very guitar based, and you want the bigger, wider, heavier guitars with, you know, you don't want this powerful drums, but you want drums that are powerful, but with setting into the mix, you know, that match up with the bass, that match up with the loud guitars, and then you want the vocal. You know, depending on what rock album you're looking at, sometimes you want that vocal really sitting on top, and sometimes you want it sitting inside.
Or who's ever moderating the mix, right? If you got the guitarist in there, they're gonna want.
Yeah, well, that's one thing with working in a band. Every time you work with a band, you know, you'll be like, especially if you have them on Revolve, be like the drummer comes in, oh yeah, sounds good, more drums, please. And then the drummer leaves, and the guitar player comes in, he's like, oh, that sounds great. Can I get more guitar? And you gotta get more guitars. And then that guy leaves, and the lead singer comes in, and it's like, oh, that sounds great. Can I have more lead vocal though? And then you're back to where you were at the very beginning.
Yeah.
The only person really not complaining is the bass player because he's asleep on the couch.
Yeah, this is, well...
I can talk faster if you want.
No, it's cool, man. I don't know if you guys realize, you're here in studio at the Riff Haus and Film Music Studio, and there's a band rehearsal in the next room. So this is, well, the show called Backstage Pass anyway, so you're going to hear some trains, like outside, bands rehearsal. This is
police helicopters.
Police helicopter. Well,
we are in LA.
Yeah, well, actually, the weed dispenser was closed already, so and they're gonna see like Jorge with his tiny jeans over there, like his. This is why he asked about the trap music.
You know, it really plays well on podcasts. Things the audience can't see.
Exactly my friend. If you guys, you know, like this is behind the cameras here, good.
This is one of the highlights of the podcast. Let's just do a half an hour of things people can't see.
Let's turn the cameras and see what's going on over there.
I had a question.
Oh, my God.
Like outside of music, I mean, you kind of alluded to this before. You know, being in front of a computer all day kind of sucks. You know, like I do the same thing. I'm typing code all day. I need to get away.
Right.
So, you know, traveling, it sounds like you're a big traveler too. I've seen pictures
traveling.
of you in, you know, Italy on social media and everything. So,
well, you know, to be honest, I was doing a record in Italy, so so you know, I don't do a ton of traveling that's not outside of music. You know, the reason I've been to Brazil was because I went down to talk about music. The reason I recently just got back from Morocco, and the reason I went to Morocco was to go talk about music. You know, when I was in Italy, I was producing an album with my production partner, Alex Ellenham. And we brought a artist from Los Angeles, a young woman, Fiona Gray, who is a talented songwriter, and she wanted to be somewhere that was not LA to get her album produced. And so I suggested, you know, coming out to Rome with us, and we did an album out there.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So aside from, I mean, that's awesome when you can involve travel with your job when it's part of that. Is there anything else that you do? Are you a cyclist? Are you like surfing or like? I mean,
Yeah, no, I'm one of those real sad people that my hobbies all include the thing that I do as a profession. You know, like what do you do in my spare time? Well, I make music for myself. You know, it's a very sad existence sometimes I live, or a very happy one if you really look at it, because I love making music. I love being in music. I love doing it. All I do for a living is music related stuff. So, you know, I guess I am very fortunate that way. There's a lot of people that would love to be in my position, which I realize, and then I feel lucky that I've had the opportunities and the things that I've gotten to accomplish.
Yeah.
Nice.
So are you still playing trumpet?
Not as much, no.
Not as much?
I wish I really should pull it out every once in a while more. But it, you know, it's one of those instruments. When you lose what's called your embouchure, man, it's hard to get it back, and it just really, like, I think, you know, I don't play keyboards very well, but I can play keyboards enough, and I feel like when I get back to the keyboard, I can get my touch back fairly quickly on the keyboard. I'm like, oh, I can remember how to do this. But man, with trumpet,
We got to start a metal band with trumpet in it.
With a trumpet.
yeah, exactly.
The
That's what we're
trumpets.
missing.
Yeah.
trumpets.
I think the metal world is really missing trumpet.
You know?
Yeah.
There it is.
You heard it here first. Our new metal band.
With trumpets.
Yeah. It's going to be called the Brass Holes.
Yeah, well, there's what was the Metalachi, right?
Metal, yeah, they do.
I like that.
Yeah,
That
they're
sounds
pretty cool.
fun.
Yeah, they do.
Mariachi metal?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
We should get them on the show too.
Yeah,
The link will be right here.
Yeah, check it out. And this is an invitation for them anyway. So
Yeah.
you guys are invited to come to the show.
Yeah. And please perform.
Yeah, actually, we're gonna have like a live performance here soon. We got next week. There's a band called Hyrex. They're really popular. They're a good
Metal band, yeah.
Trash metal band. They're gonna perform here. It'll be the first band and performs here at stage. You can see the stage right now because of mess, but it's okay. Next week is gonna look beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Looks nice now.
Yeah.
So Steve, do you have any? I don't know if you're doing plugins or anything, or if there's any kind of like promotion that you wanted to point out with things that you're doing. Or?
I think in my future I do have we have a plugin ideas going on. I'm not sure right now if we're at a point that we want to talk about it because it's still in the development stage. But people will know. But I guess if people want to get a hold of me. The easiest way is probably Instagram, and you can find it right here at Into Mixin'. Or if you want to there's other ways. My production things we call it Two Beard Productions. That's me and Alex, and we produce a lot of different styles of music, and it's kind of fun. If people just want to check out that page, that's kind of a fun page to peruse also.
And this is pretty cool. If you wanna your music mixed and produced and mastered by Steve, just
Yeah, if you're looking at something to mix or master, that's for sure. You can go to engineers.com/intomixin, and then you can find out a little bit more about me, my rates, and that sort of thing. You can also, it has a little DM thing, so you can reach out to me. Slide in my DMs if you want, check it out. It's a great. I like that platform, by the way. I didn't really talk about it. It was a really interesting platform. It's a platform where you can find engineers for almost any genre and anything, and you go on there and you can find everything from Grammy award-winning engineers to guys who are kind of new in the business and getting their feet wet. But it's a cool platform because it allows the customer to come in. Like say they want to get a mix from me, they purchase the mix, but their money doesn't go directly to me right away. It goes into like an escrow, basically.
Nice.
And I do the mix, so the money's out of the hands of the artist, but not in the hands of me yet.
Yeah.
So it gives a little
buffer,
a little security, for both about the am I going to get this mix back?
Yeah.
From the artist's perspective. And then on my end, I know I'm going to get paid because they already paid into the escrow. Yeah. So it's a pretty cool thing. And they have really cool things too, where like, say you're doing a full album and you don't have all the money right now. You can do partial payments even with them, which is kind of a cool idea.
This is cool.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool.
It's a pretty fascinating site, and I don't get paid by them, so I am out here plugging their stuff. But I use it, and I think it's a very useful tool.
Oh, nice.
And then as far as your studio goes, like we were gonna put all the links and everything below, but you're out in LA.
Yeah, my studio's up in Sherman Oaks. It's called Next Level Mastering. That's where I do the mixing and mastering. I do some production out of there also, but we mainly focus in on mixing and mastering there. So,
okay.
Nice. This is pretty cool. Well, guys, was a great interview, and it was a pleasure to have Steve here to talk a little bit about. We're gonna need more. For sure, he's gonna come back here.
Yes,
and
definitely.
For sure, he's gonna host the show too.
I should. Yeah, you guys are fired.
Yeah,
My turn.
You do understand? We try to get hosters, so me and Matt, we can leave the show already. Yeah. So, this is the second interview, and we're kind of done.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the
now. Steve is the host.
I'm the host.
He's like, it's over.
It's done.
It's over. So we already we quick. We did 2 interviews, but okay. Podcast. Make sure you follow us at
Your Music TV on YouTube.
Yeah, subscribe to the channel. It's really important, and make sure to drink your acid rain water.
Acid rain.
Don't get burned by the B12.
Yeah, and eat eggs.
Guys, have a really good day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye. See you guys later. Zoom. Baboom.